In this video, we're going to talk about my bike. We're going to talk about all the different parts of my bike and what makes them special, why I like them, why I might not like them, and pretty much just an overall overview of what makes this bike special and different from other types of bikes or other trials bikes, things like that. So let's get right into it and let's check this thing out. When this bike first came out, they had these wheels on them, and these are made by Atom Lab. These were designed for like mountain bikes, and on my other bike that I had before this bike, I actually had like real trials rims, and they were much wider. But you can check these out here and you can see just how thin these are. These are like extremely thin, I would say less than 2 inches wide. For whatever reason, trials bikes for the longest time had really wide rims, for the sole fact that when you're hopping on rocks, you don't want the bead of the tire to actually slip on the rim and come off of the bead. So most of the time trials bikes were always built with really wide rims, and the rims on my other bike are quite wide. Generally, the one in the rear was wider than the one in the front. Now, on the street trials bikes, where you're not quite hopping on rocks as often, I also think that the tire technology has gotten better to where they can have a rim that's this thin, but still actually be able to hold the tire in place and not have a whole lot of roll on the actual tire. Now, just to finish off about these rims, there have been a lot of manufacturer that seems like Inspired has teamed up with as far as, you know, what rims they put on the bike. At this point in time, when this bike came out, Atom Lab was the one that I guess had the best rims for this kind of bike. So this is what they used. Shortly after this, Spank had some rims. Kind of a weird name, I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird. I was kind of glad I got these rims that didn't say, you know, Spank on them. But I haven't had any problems whatsoever with these rims. They've never come off the bead of the tire. They've never rolled or anything like that. They've been really great. They've stayed extremely true. I do make sure that my spokes are tight after every few rides because they do occasionally get loose if you don't check them. So that's really important. But they've been great and I haven't broken any wheels. The tire, these are made by Continental. These tires are extremely expensive in my opinion. When I first got the bike, I had never used these Continental tires. These are the Danny McCaskill signature tires. And I ran the Maxxis Holy Rollers for a long time. That's all that was really available for the street trials market. And they were great, but they were what's called a folding tire. And I didn't really know what that meant until I realized what it meant was pretty much the sidewalls aren't really very thick. They're very lightweight, which is good for trials, but they're almost too lightweight for the stuff that we do. So I had the issues where the actual tire, the sidewall, would actually start bulging, and it would eventually, the tube would rip through the tire, and they would eventually literally just like fall apart. So I have never had that issue with these Continental tires. This front one, I think it's still the original tire on this bike. The rear one I have changed, but this one is still the original tire, and you can see actually the wear pattern here. It's still got a little bit of life left in it, but eventually I'll probably have to replace that baby soon. As far as what tubes I run in the wheels, it's some sort of downhill tube. It's not like a super light, like trial specific tube, because I have run into issues where I was like popping tires a lot. They are not tubeless. Some people convert to tubeless. I'm still running a tube because I don't really have any issues with the tubes that I'm running right now. I believe the tubes are made by Maxxis, I think. Moving in, you can see the hub here. Now, again, when this bike came out, the Pro 2 Evo hub made by Hope, made in the UK. Yeah, guys, the UK. Man, what a cool place. Anyways, it's black, it's nice. I always thought about, you know, having a cool colored hub, but not a big deal. I actually think black, you know, is the way to go. The bearings in it, I haven't had any issues with any play in them. They've been extremely strong, everything about them. Now, this bike you notice is a bolt-through axle. This is a pretty new design, I'd say within like the last 5 years that this really become popular on the street trials bikes. Now, on my other bike, what would happen is you would have actual bolts that would thread into the hub. They were like, I believe 10mm bolts, and the problem with those were they weren't as strong, it wasn't as rigid, and occasionally, you know, the bolts either wouldn't be tight enough, but with them being so much thinner than like a bolt through axle like this, there was just sometimes a little bit of play in the dropouts, things like that. The brakes. These are the Magura MT7 brakes. Now, I've been through a lot of brakes, and I will say that these are my favorite brakes that have come out so far. I am a brake freak. When it comes to brakes, I want the brakes to be super powerful, super responsive, just like touch that finger and they just lock up, but still have like really good feel. But of course I want it all, and it's really hard to find. Before these brakes, I ran Shimano M820s. I'm pretty sure that was the name. It's been a minute since I've ran those brakes. Those are on my other bike. If you guys want me to do kind of like an overall check of that other bike, let me know down in the comments and I'll do it. Now, this rotor is not the rotor that came with this bike. It came with Magura Rotors, and you guys might have seen in one of my earlier videos, the rear rotor actually tacoed just from hitting the brakes, because the brakes were just so powerful, I guess, that the strength of the rotor was compromised and it actually completely bent out of shape. So these are Shimano rotors, and these rotors actually have been a really great match for these brakes. Now, as far as the exact type of rotor that these are the RT66s. So the way I figured out that I wanted the RT66s is I looked at a ton of photos of Danny's bike, and I eventually, just from looking at the slots in the rotor, I figured out that at one point he was running these rotors. So I figured I'd give him a try, and they haven't had any issues whatsoever with becoming tacos. Now, you do notice that I still have my beautiful zip ties on here. I have explained in videos what they're for, but if you guys haven't seen that video, pretty much all they're there is pretty much my way of allowing myself to have a really short throw and a short engagement, because these actually have limiters on them, but they actually move outwards, and I didn't really like that feeling. I wanted them to just kind of sit in place, and when you're adjusting the reach over here, it pushes the lever further away from the bars, which I didn't want, so this kind of holds them in a constant spot so you can actually tighten that bolt and adjust the feel. Let's check out these super slick handlebars. These have quite a bit of rise, a lot more rise than any other bike previously to this bike. The Arcade kind of was the first bike to have bars that had this much rise to them. I have the same bars on my other bike. I really like them. I like the width. The geometry of them is really nice. This is a 90mm stem made by Trial Tech. It's a great size for pretty much doing most street things and trials. Hope headset, of course, inspired Sky frame. The wheelbase, I think, is 977mm, which is pretty short compared to most pure trials bikes. They're gonna be a lot longer, over 1000mm. Now, as far as the design of this frame, you can see how thick the head tube is here compared to my other inspired 4Play bike. The head tube is much smaller, and you can see all the reinforcement that they have welded to the head tube onto the top tube. Over here, you can see there is quite a bit of reinforcement here. So I don't think that I'll be able to break these. Now, the forks I've had really good luck with. I've had inspired forks in the past, and I have actually broken a set before. I've actually cracked them on the weld, but I have not had any problems with these. They've been really rigid and really strong. The paint job on this frame, I really love the blue color. I think it looks really great. The only thing that I wasn't crazy about, that I didn't really know until I started riding the bike, was this paint is relatively porous, which means that it's not like glossy and it's not smooth, so a lot of the dirt sticks to it and you can't just wipe it off with a paper towel. It's not smooth at all, so you can't just wipe off the dirt. It just doesn't really come off that easily, so it's kind of hard to clean. But other than that, it looks great in this sort of flat finish. We have inspired platform pedals. Take a look at these babies here. Now, you can actually see the spikes on here for grip. Definitely want to wear some shin guards with these pedals. Those hurt a lot if you get whacked in the shins. Hope cranks and a Hope bottom bracket. This was an upgrade over the stock, I think Truvatov, I'm not sure how you say it, cranks. It's starting to rain, guys, I better rush here. These cranks have been really great. They're quite a bit more expensive than the other cranks that were supposed to come with the bike. To be honest, I think the other cranks would have been fine. I run Trial Tech cranks on my other bike, and I really like them. These ones have a little bit of flex to them, so it was a little bit strange, but they are extremely lightweight, so that was pretty much, I think, the reason that these were considered an upgrade. Over here, the seat is an inspired Kevlar seat. I actually really love this seat. It's really minimalistic and it's really strong. There's a lot of marks on it from where I've landed, you know, with my feet, and a lot of tail whip tricks. It's been proven to be very strong and it's very lightweight. For whatever it's worth, we've got a Hope seat post clamp. I don't really know what kind of seat post it is. Maybe it's a Hope seat post, who knows? World may never know. The rear hub is also a Hope hub. This is the Pro 2 Evo 40 tooth. Now, in a lot of my videos, you guys know I love the sound it makes. Listen to those engagement points. There are many. Which is what you want on a trials bike. You want as many engagement points as possible. You know, when you're doing rear wheel hops or pedal ups or a lot of stunts on the rear wheel, you want a lot of engagement points. Now, the same rims, same tires in the rear. Over on this side, we got my super slick white chain, my chain guard here so my beautiful frame doesn't get all scraped up by my chain. Inspired bash guard right here. And Trial Tech chain tensioner. And yeah, that's pretty much it. These up here, I might have skipped over these. These are titanium bolts. These are the stand titanium bolts. They look pretty cool. They're supposed to be light, but who knows how much weight I'm really saving there. And yeah, so anyways guys, it's actually hailing right now. I don't know why I chose right now to do a bike check, but I just really want to let you guys know exactly what I'm running here. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments and I'll try and answer them. But I'll see you guys in the next video.